So going to talk a little bit about addictions today. I have had a number of them. The first one was really gambling. So I was turning 15 the summer that we were living in. Where were we living at that point? I think we were already out on Long Island. Anyway, there was a Jewish family that had lived across the street from us in Queens, and they had at that time 3 little girls, and they had asked me to be their mother's helper. Every summer, this family had a little cottage on Rockaway Beach, Long Island, and I would be joining them. The husband stayed in town and worked during the week, and he came and joined the family during the weekend, which was kind of a tradition that Jewish families in that area were engaged in. It was all the moms and their children would come, would be there all week long, and they would be on the beach. They would be with their blankets and their transistor radios and their little wine bottles, sometimes beer. They generally had a really good time, and then towards the weekend you'd see them with their curlers in place, getting ready for the husbands to rejoin them and wanting to look good. But there I was, turning 15 that summer, and I was getting paid $10 per week to, I'm going to get this on somehow or another. I was getting $10 per week to be the mother's helper for these 3 little girls, and it meant that from 6 in the morning until often 11 at night I was up and I was busy. The youngest one was still a baby. She wasn't walking yet. She was maybe 10 months old, and then the other one was maybe 2, and then there was one that was 4, all little girls, and they were just as cute as could be. And I loved spending time with them, but it was exhausting. They had me sleeping on a little army cot kind of thing in the hallway. You know, it was just a 2-bedroom little cabin. And I was so exhausted at the end of each day. I just fell into the cot and I was gone. So my first Sunday, when I got my first $10, and I had taken this job because I wanted to buy my own wardrobe. And back in the day, back in the 1960s, you could buy an entire school wardrobe for about $100 or less. I mean, you could get the shoes, you could get the shirts, you could get the skirts. It was just really going to let me buy the things that I particularly wanted. So there I was, my first Sunday. I had just gotten $10, and I took that $10 and I walked down the boardwalk, and I discovered an arcade. You know, the kind of place where they have, you throw a dart and try to hit the balloons, or you toss a ring around the top of the milk bottles, and you win all these different prizes. They had all these different games, and it was really my first encounter in this life with gambling venue. And I could not take myself away from there. Every game cost 10 cents, and within a couple of hours I had spent the entire $10, 10 cents at a time, and I had won absolutely nothing. And I was so upset about it. I was walking back to the little cottage, really upset with myself. How could I have done this? How could I have just kept on and kept on and kept on, even though I was steadfastly losing my entire week's pay? Well, next Sunday, what did I do? I went down the boardwalk again, and I repeated the entire process of what had happened to me the weekend before. So now I have blown 2 of my 8-9 weeks of work there, and I am feeling very demoralized going back. But it did not stop me the next Sunday repeating it a 3rd time. So at some point I had won a Cupid doll. I think that might have been my 2nd or 3rd visit. But I repeated this gambling activity, and I mean, it was like I was a full-blown gambler the very first time I came upon gambling, and once I started, I could not stop. So then this happened one more Sunday. It happened a fourth Sunday. And that fourth Sunday, I was so upset with myself. I was calling myself all kinds of names. I felt like a complete failure because I could not stop myself. You know, let me see if I move over here. That'd be better. I'm gonna get some sun no matter which way I sit. All right. So I just felt so bad. That fourth Sunday, I just was so down on myself. I said, you will never do this again. You will never gamble again. I refuse to let you gamble one more time. So there I was at the age of 15. I had decided that I am an addicted gambler, and that the only way I can avoid this particular trap was simply to not go. And so for the rest of that summer, I avoided that place. I didn't go. I didn't gamble anymore. So I earned the rest of that money, and I bought what I could buy, which was still a considerable amount back in those days. Okay, maybe I'll have to sit back like this. So the years passed, and I kept my resolve. I broke it only one single time for an evening. But other than that, I decided that gambling was not good for me, that I had no self-control when it came to gambling, and I didn't know why. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what had happened to me or why it had happened. But I was in my 30s, living in New Mexico, when a friend of mine, she was very excited about having found a gambling venue just a little bit north of Santa Fe. And it was Camel Rock, which was a bingo hall at the time, had decided to start putting in slot machines into a single wide mobile home. So the very first gambling venue was this this one single wide mobile home about 10 miles north of Santa Fe. And my friend was so excited about it. She had me come in there with her, and she picked out a machine, put in a $20 bill. She's playing. I'm sitting next to her watching, and she didn't like being watched. It kind of camper style. So she said, "Why don't you try the machine in front of you? See how lucky you are." And I said, "No, I'd rather not. It's gambling is scary to me." And she said, "Scary? How scary is it? Here, take my $5, put it in there. You risk nothing." So I did. I took her $5, put it in the machine. I should not have. I did never tell her that I have this problem that crept up when I was 15 years old, that was never resolved. And within a very short time, I mean, she and I went there maybe 2-3 times. And then I realized I didn't need to be accompanied by anyone. I could do this all by myself. And my gambling addiction was up and going again. So now I'm in my 30s. I live in Santa Fe. I'm an independent contract paralegal, which means I always have cash around. And anytime I had like 40, 60 bucks, or sometimes even less, I would head up the highway. And then it got to the place where all I wanted to do was gamble. And I worked just enough to keep the bills paid, and so I could keep coming back to the casinos. And it got really, really horrible for me. I mean, I couldn't stop it. I could not stop myself. And there are so many different tricks addicted gamblers try. I mean, I tried them all. I left money at home. I left credit cards at home. But then I would drive an hour to get back to my home to pick up the cards or the cash. And it was just getting worse and worse. And I was just about ready to start law school. And it was at this point that I really had to make a decision as to, am I going to be a lawyer or am I going to be a gambler? Because the two have irreconcilable differences. You can't really do both. You know, you can't be trusted with client trust funds if you're addicted to the casinos. And so back in 2004, I made the decision that I really, really wanted to do law. I did not want to do the casinos, and so then I hooked up with a psychiatrist up in Santa Fe. And it took, we were at it 7-8 months, I would say, before the gambling demons had retired or withdrawn. I'm not sure exactly what they do. I do know if I were to go back into casinos again and start again, it would probably come back again. So whatever that compulsion is, whatever that attribute of the addictive quality is. Anyway, I'm not feeling attracted to any casinos. I'm just not interested in horse racing in terms of gambling. So I made it safely past that by 2004, so 21 years ago. But at the time that I was dealing with that, my sister was going through a really, really difficult, challenging time with her alcohol addiction. And she was 2 years older than me, had been in and out of rehab facilities. Her esophagus had gotten so eroded from the acid of the alcohol that periodically the esophagus would burst and she'd have this bleeding. She was hospitalized 3 or 4 times maybe for that. She would have just drowned in her own blood. It was really bad, but despite my own addiction to the casinos, I was not able to understand what was driving her alcohol addiction, why she couldn't stop. It was just like, how can you put that much bad stuff into your body that you know is killing you, and yet not be able to stop? But I guess it doesn't really matter what particular addiction we fall prey to. They can all kill you very effectively. I mean, mostly the addicted gamblers end up committing suicide, and the alcoholic, of course, they get into accidents. And my sister ended up being hit by a pickup truck one night when she decided she needed to get more wine, and her boyfriend had taken away her car key, and so she said, well, screw you, I'll take my bicycle. And she got on a bicycle and at night came out of an unlit side street onto a busy thoroughfare without stopping, right into the path of a pickup truck, and she died that night, with almost all the bones in her body shattered. Anyway, that was one of the addictive processes I went through, and I believe that it came in with me, that it's something that I already had in me and picked up in other lifetimes. I don't think it's something that started in this lifetime because of the way it was already a full-blown addiction when it surfaced in me. And then there were cigarettes, and I started cigarettes, I think I was 16, yeah. I was in this relationship with a gym teacher of mine, and she smoked, and so I think I smoked to feel like I belonged there, or to feel older or something. And that bad habit eventually led to my smoking 2 packs a day. And periodically I would want to stop because I was making my co-workers miserable with it. My clothes didn't smell good because of that tobacco smell. And my lungs weren't happy with me doing that. And so it took 4 different times before I finally was able to put the cigarettes aside for good. I was up to 2 packs a day, which is like you're just lighting one off of the other, and the things we do to ourselves, right? I mean, honest to God. So what do I now have? The only addiction I still have left is sugar. When I was born, I had difficulty breathing, and I spent the first year of my life in a hospital in Germany. And I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that they gave the infants water with sugar in it because there was so little milk, there was so little nutrition, there was so many other things, so little other things in Germany at that time. This is in 47, 48. So I believe that sugar addiction was something that came to me fairly early from being given sugar as an infant in the hospital, but I don't really know. So that I am still every week, every other week, I'm like battling myself on that, Um, Whole Foods has these jelly beans that I really like. They have a little tart sweetness, which I crave. And so, part of me says, don't get them this week. Don't. But then when I'm home and I don't have my favorite sugar treat, it makes me antsy. It's like something is missing from my life. I guess I have my body so well habituated to the sugar that it makes me feel unhappy, out of balance when I don't have that sugar available. So this is what I'm working on currently. Among other things that I'm working on, I'm always working on something to change my life, to improve things, to open up psychic channels. So we are never completed beings. It's like we can come back again and again and again and work on all of the things that make life in a human body so challenging and so delightful at the same time, right? And then, of course, there is the current event situation. I actually had a very busy day yesterday, going up to Santa Fe to visit my friend Joyce, picking up more of my drinking water up there, meeting with my friend Linda for lunch and her significant other Stu. We had a wonderful time. And then in the afternoon I went and attended a town hall with Melanie Stansbury, I think her name is. She is one of New Mexico's House of Representatives representative, and very, very feisty. She's sort of like Katie Porter in a way. She's got that same kind of, tell me why. I want answers. Damn it, what do you mean by this? So I like that about her. I like her feistiness, and I like her passion. And it was actually the first time I attended a town hall anywhere, and it was interesting for me. I got to meet the mayor of Albuquerque, and Melanie. I got to talk to Melanie and tell her how encouraged I am by her. I mean, it just gives me so much faith in our representatives that they have this kind of commitment and dedication to turning things around in Washington. So I'm feeling good about that. And then the crowning glory yesterday was no King's Day meetings all over the United States, right? I mean, there were millions and millions of us attending these meetings all over our country. In the meantime, Trump, is sitting in the drizzle in the under gray skies in Washington, having, I think, advertised on Craigslist for spectators to fill the parade route, which they really didn't. Very sad event. He made a fool of himself, internationally, again, not too surprising. So there was this juxtaposition of all of these citizens meeting and saying, we don't want a king in this country. You will not shed our Constitution. We are going to change this in a hurry. And then there was Washington, dysfunctional, dark, cloudy, unhappy. So that was a very nice end to my week this week, and God only knows what kind of mischief we can get into this coming week. Anyway, I hope you all are doing well, and that you are heartened by the outpouring of love on the part of average citizens. We can do this. We can do this. All right.